So let's get started. Number 1, this is a non-calculated question. Write the equation of a line parallel to 2y equals x minus 3 and that passes through point -4, 3 in slope-intercept form. Let's focus on the ask of the question. The ask is write the equation of a line. Anytime they say write the equation of a line, you need to think about what I call money pays bills, which is an acronym to remind you of what you should do when you start a problem that says write the equation of a line. Now, lines come in many different forms. The form that they want you to write their answer in is slope-intercept form, which means you want your final answer to look like y equals mx plus b. And the only two things that you need to actually solve for is the slope and the b, which is your y-intercept. So money pays bills means that you need to get a couple of important pieces of information so that you can get your answer. Money, M, stands for the slope that you need to find. Pays stands for the point that you need to plug into your equation to solve for B, which is what I call bills. So money pays bills. M for slope, P for a point, B for the y-intercept. Now, looking at this particular question, they specify what type of line you need to find. You need to find a line parallel. When you see parallel, you need to think to yourself, same slope. So you need to have the same slope as the line that they provide. Their line is 2y equals x minus 3. Now, 2y equals x minus 3 is not the form that we need to look at lines in. We need to have y all by itself so that we can quickly tell what the slope is that we're trying to get parallel to. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this equation, 2y equals x minus 3, and put it into y equals form. So here we go. 2y equals x minus 3. The only thing keeping the y from being alone is the 2. So we're going to divide every term by 2. The 2's cancel. Now we have y equals. Remember from algebra, there's an invisible 1 in front of every x. So it's 1 over 2x. And then -3 over 2. Now, you don't care about the -3 over 2. You care about the slope of this line that they gave you. The slope is right here. It's 1/2. So if you want a line that's going to be parallel to this equation that they gave you, you need to have the same slope. So your slope should also be 1 over 2. Now go to your graphic organizer. We're going to start filling in all the things that we need in order to get our final answer. So we needed our slope for a line parallel. So it's going to be 1/2, just like the equation that they gave us. And then we also need a point. Now looking back at the question, the point that they say is on our line is -4, 3. So we're going to put -4, 3. Now, I put a line underneath the point, and that line is supposed to tell you to solve. You have to solve for B. So in order to solve for B, you're going to plug in all of these values that you have. So the 1/2 is your M, the -4 is your X value, and 3 is your Y value. You're going to plug into your Y equals MX plus B form, and you're going to be able to solve for B. So plugging things in, y is 3 equals m is 1/2, x is -4 plus b. Now, next step, 3 equals 1/2 times -4. In case you don't know how to do that, I'm just going to do it on the side. 1/2 times -4. Put your whole number over 1 and then multiply across. 1 times -4 is -4. 2 times 1 is 2. Simplify. Negative 4 divided by a positive 2 is a negative 2. Now go back to your equation. You're going to replace 1/2 times negative 4 with negative 2 plus b. Remember, you want to get b alone so that you can complete your y equals mx plus b linear equation. Now, add 2 to both sides to isolate the b. The negative 2 and the positive 2 cancel. On the left, 3 plus 2 is 5. All you're left with is your b. So that 5 is your b value, your y-intercept. So our final answer is going to be y equals 1/2 x plus 5. Put that in as the answer to question 1. Question 2. Still no calculator. Write the equation of a line. Oh, so we know what we should be doing here. Perpendicular to y equals negative 5 over 9x plus 4, and that passes through point negative 5, negative 4 in slope-intercept form. Okay, again, the ask of the question. Write the equation of a line. So we're doing that money pays bills graphic organizer again. However, for this question, they want something perpendicular. So you're not using the same slope, you're using the opposite reciprocal. I'm just going to abbreviate. The opposite reciprocal slope of the line that they give you. So their line is y equals negative 5 over 9x plus 4. So their slope is right here. It's negative 5 over 9. So when we think about perpendicular, we need to take that negative 5 over 9 and we need to take the opposite sign, so it's going to become positive. And then 5 over 9, we have to take the reciprocal. In other words, flip the fraction. So it's going to be a positive 9 over 5. Therefore, I don't care about it. Now let's set up our graphic organizer like we did in the last problem. So we have y equals mx plus b as our goal. We need the slope of our line, which is perpendicular. We need a point on our line, and then we can solve for b, our y-intercept. So we have our slope. We said it needs to be perpendicular. So we have a 9 over 5 positive. And then we have a point on our line. If we go back to the question, it says that our line needs to pass through the point negative 5, negative 4. So I'm going to put negative 5, negative 4. Now, we need to solve for b. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to plug everything in. So our y value is negative 4 equals our slope is 9 over 5 times our x value is negative 5 plus b. Now we need to solve this little piece right here. 9/5 times negative 5. If you didn't know how to do that before, let's try it again. 9 over 5 times negative 5. There it is. Put the negative 5 over 1 and multiply across. 9 times negative 5 equals negative 45. 5 times 1 is 5. Simplify this. Negative 45 divided by 5 is negative 9. So let's go back to our equation. Negative 4 equals negative 9 plus b. We need to get b alone, so now we have to get rid of that negative 9 by adding 9 to both sides. The 9s will cancel. Negative 4 plus 9 is 5. That equals b. So now we have the slope and the y-intercept, So we can state our final answer. Our final answer is y equals 9 over 5x plus 5. Write your answer down. Number 3, still no calculator. Write the equation of a line that is perpendicular and passes through the midpoint of AB with A at -3.5 and B at 1, -1. Okay, so this is still a money pays bills question. It's just a little bit trickier. So let's take a look. Now you're still going to write the equation of a line. They didn't specify how, so let's stick with y equals mx plus b, our slope-intercept form. They also specify that your line needs to be perpendicular. So we're thinking opposite reciprocal slopes. And lastly, it needs to pass through the midpoint of some line segment called AB. AB has points -3.5 and B 1, -1. Now, as soon as you're given some points and you have to figure out a midpoint, or in this case, we're going to have to figure out a slope so we can get something perpendicular, my recommendation, grab a piece of graph paper. So let me go grab a piece of graph paper. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I grabbed a piece of graph paper. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and visualize what's happening here. We have a line segment that they're talking to us about, line segment AB. So I'm going to plot AB on my graph. I'm going to go to -3.5. And then I'm going to go to 1, -1. I'm going to connect those two with a line. So this is not going to look great, but I'm going to do my best. There we go. And now the goal of this question is to write the equation of a line that's going to be perpendicular to this line segment I drew in green and pass through the midpoint of it. So I want to kind of visualize what that's going to look like. Let's approximate that the midpoint is, I don't know, maybe around here somewhere. Okay? And we're going to want it to look perpendicular to this line segment. So maybe kind of like that. That's probably what our answer is going to look like. So keeping that in mind, we want something that has probably a positive slope because the green line looks like a negative slope. And we want it to pass through this midpoint. So maybe my answer for the y-intercept is going to be somewhere around 2 or 3 or something like that. So I'm just keeping in mind what my answer should look like. Now let's go through the steps of actually trying to solve for it. I'm going to get rid of that red line. And I'm going to go through the correct channels in order to get the real answer for this question. So step 1, let's write out our money pays bills y equals mx plus b. We need the slope. We need a point on our line. And we need to solve for the y-intercept. Now, to get slope, I need to think about the fact that it's going to be perpendicular to this green line. So I'm first going to have to get the slope of the green line before I can get my slope. So let's figure out what the slope is of this green line segment. Since it's already on the graph, what I'm going to do, instead of using the slope formula to figure out the slope of this green line segment, I'm going to just do rise over run. So rise over run. Now, I'm starting at 5, and I'm going down to -1. So I've gone down 6. Going down is a negative movement, so -6 is my rise. Then I'm going to go across. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes across to the right. Going to the right is a positive movement, so my run is a +4. Negative 6 over 4 is the slope of this green line segment. However, negative 6 over 4 is not in simplest form, so we need to simplify. If we divide the top and bottom by 2, we get negative 3 over 2. That's the slope of the green line segment. What we want is something perpendicular. So perpendicular to negative 3 over 2 is going to be a positive, because you have to take the opposite sign, and you have to flip the fraction. So positive 2 over 3. So I'm going to write down my slope as 2 over 3. There we go. And now for my point. Well, they didn't really give me a point that's on my line. They told me what the endpoints are of this green line segment. But they did say that they want my line to pass through the midpoint of this green line segment. So now what I need to do is I need to figure out, well, what is this midpoint around here? To do that, we're going to do the midpoint formula. So this is one of those things you want to put down on your reference sheet in the back of the packet. Midpoint formula. If you recall what it is, it's x1 plus x2. That doesn't look very good. Let me fix that. x1 plus x2 over 2. y1 plus y2. That doesn't look very good either. Let me fix that. Over 2. That's my midpoint formula. So I'm going to use these coordinates at A and at B in order to find my midpoint. So my x's are negative 3 and 1. I'm going to add those together. Negative 3 plus 1 all over 2. Next, the y values. I have 5 and negative 1. 5 plus negative 1 all over 2. Simplifying further. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. So this is going to be negative 2 over 2. 5 plus negative 1 is like saying 5 minus 1, which is 4. So now we have 4 over 2. Fully simplified, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So my midpoint is negative 1, comma 2, which if I give a better and more exact point onto my little graph here, it's at negative 1, 2. Actually, I'm pretty good. Right around here. Negative 1, comma 2. Now we're going to fill that in into our graphic organizer. Our midpoint is going to act as the point for our line. Negative 1, comma 2. Now, let's plug everything in. So our y value is 2. Our slope is 2 over 3. Our x value is negative 1. And then we're going to say plus b. Start solving. 2 equals. Now we have 2/3 times negative 1. 2/3 times negative 1 is going to be a negative 2/3. Plus b. We need to get b alone, so we're going to add 2 over 3 to both sides. And now we're keeping this as a mixed number. 2 and 2/3 is our b value. Bring that into our graphic organizer. 2 and 2/3. So it's approximately 2.6 repeating. So that's really close to 3, but not quite at 3. Our final answer, let's write it out. Y equals 2/3 x plus 2 and 2/3. That's the equation for our perpendicular line, which I'm going to just sketch right here. Write your answer down and let's move on. Number 4, still no calculator. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that is perpendicular to the line shown and passes through the point J, negative 1, 3, which if you notice in your graph, negative 1, 3 has already been plotted. Now going back to the ask of the question, write the equation of the line. So again, let's set up our graphic organizer. Money pays bills. Y equals mx plus b. You need a slope for your line. You need a point on your line. And then you're going to solve for the y-intercept. Now, let's see what we need to do for slope. Now, going back to the question, it says we want to put this in slope-intercept form, which is the y equals mx plus b. That is perpendicular. Perpendicular, you're thinking opposite reciprocal slope. So you need to have the opposite reciprocal slope to the line shown. So perpendicular to this line shown. Well, the first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out, well, what's the slope of the line that's shown? To do that, you're going to pick two good points. So it looks like the 2, which is the y-intercept, and we have 4, 3, which is this point right here. Let me change to here and here. So we're going to count the rise and the run to figure out what is that slope. Now we're going to rise up 1. So you're going up 1. That's positive. Over our run to the right 4 boxes. So to the right 4. Again, that's a positive movement. So 1 over 4 is the slope of this line already pictured. Our slope needs to be perpendicular. So our slope needs to have the opposite sign, negative, and needs to have that reciprocal piece. So flip that fraction, 4 over 1. You don't need to put the over 1, so really our slope is going to be negative 4. Go to your graphic organizer, write down that our slope is negative 4 for our perpendicular line. And now our point needs to pass, well, our point, is J, negative 1, 3. This is J right here. So imagine what our line is going to look like. It's probably going to look something like, I don't know, something like that. All right, let me get rid of that. So since we already have our point, let's go ahead and put that into our graphic organizer, negative 1, 3. And now we're going to plug everything in order to figure out our y-intercept. So plugging in our y value, which is 3, equals, our slope is negative 4. Our x value is negative 1 plus b. Simplify. 3 equals negative 4 times negative 1, which is a positive 4, plus b. Got to get rid of the 4, so we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. 3 minus 4 is negative 1, and that is your b value. Now let's see if that makes sense for our graph. I'm going to try and zoom in on this graph a little bit, see how that works. Okay, so our slope was a negative 4. Negative 4 is the same thing as negative 4 over 1. It tells us to go down 4, right 1. So if I go to J and I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I run to the right 1, I'm going to end up right here. And that is going to be our y-intercept if I connect, let me connect J to that negative 1 point I just plotted. So that's what our line should look like. Now, according to our work, we said that our y-intercept is negative 1, which makes sense. Even when we counted, we got negative 1. So let's go ahead and write our final answer. We have y equals negative 4x minus 1. And in fact, yeah, the two lines, they look kind of perpendicular to me. Let's go on to the next question. Number 5. Still no calculator. Write the equation of the line parallel to the line shown and passes through point negative 3, 2. Okay, so going back, our ask is write the equation of the line. Now, you may want to do money pays bills here. However, we have a special type of line pictured. It's a vertical line. Vertical lines don't follow the same format for how you write the equation of that line. It's not going to look like y equals mx plus b. Now, here's a little way to remember what vertical lines and horizontal lines have as slopes and what their equations should look like. Now, the way that you're going to remember it, it's kind of weird, but it's called y-Vox, which stands for horizontal lines have a 0 slope and they're y equals lines. So the equation of a horizontal line may look like y equals 2. And that would be passing through 2 along the y-axis and parallel to the x-axis. That's what y equals 2 would look like. Now, Vox stands for vertical lines. They have an undefined slope and they're x equals lines. So you may see a vertical line with the equation x equals 5. In fact, that's exactly the line that's pictured. This yellow highlighted line passes through the x-axis at 5, and it's vertical. The lines are named after the axis in which they cross. So if we're trying to draw a line parallel to this one, let's imagine what that's going to look like. It's going to go vertically up and down, but it has to pass through -3, 2. So I'm going to go to -3, 2. I'm going to plot the point. Here's my point. And now what I want to do is I want to make something vertical that's going to be parallel to that original line. So vertical passing through this point. Here we go. Here's my vertical line. Now, since it's a vertical line, according to Vox, it should be an x equals line. X equals wherever it crosses that x-axis. Since it crosses right here at -3, we're going to call this an x equals -3 line. To give you some more examples, x equals 1 would look like this. If I had x equals -6, it would look like this. Okay. So when we have lines that are parallel and, not parallel, when we have lines that are vertical and horizontal and they want us to find something parallel or perpendicular, do that completely visually. Grab a piece of graph paper and look at it. Just remember, y-Vox, horizontal lines have a y equals equation. Vertical lines have an x equals equation. So our final answer here, let's go back to the goal, was to get something parallel to the yellow line and that passed through this green point that we plotted. So our answer is this line right here. Okay, x equals -3. We're going to write that in as our final answer. X equals -3. And now we're done with page 1. Let's go on to the next video for page 2.